Hello, Dominic here from the Bournemouth Writing Festival. This is another episode of our YouTube series talking to local writers and authors in the Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole area. So we're hoping to launch one of these every Monday evening at 6 o'clock. So if you hit subscribe somewhere along there, you will get an automatic notification to let you know when the next interview is up and running. Now, today I'm really happy to welcome Gary, who did actually perform at our Sunday night finale at the 2004 Writing Festival as part of our Writing Home showcase. And I'm delighted to be able to chat with him today. On his Twitter, he says he's the lead artist and prison performer for the Outsiders Project, which is one hell of a job title for a business card. Hi, Gary, welcome.
Good evening, Dom. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you for joining me. So, Gary, you were in prison and in and out of different institutions, and then you left and decided to go back in to help others and other prisoners to write and to perform. So, tell us why and how did you find it going back into prisons?
Wow. So very, very astonished to find myself, and I still do that at the moment. I think we're on our third or fourth year touring the Southwest prisons, and particularly when I've gone back to Borstalls or youth custody centres that I served in, it's been a very, very, very surreal experience. For example, showing the officers the way to where we're going. So yeah, it's been very surreal, and whoever's with me unfortunately gets bored the pants off of them because I'm going, and that's over there and that's over there. Yeah.
So why did you decide to do it? Did you feel like you obviously took something out of it, part of the project, and now you're going back in? So what drove you to go back in?
Well, wow, you're asking the big ones, Dom. So I mean, I got involved in my early recovery from alcohol and drugs, which has been a few years. I got involved with the Outsiders Project, and we did one of their short little things at one of the beef festivals. And there was a couple of people in the audience that had written a piece about lockdown and how it was worse for prisoners. Not necessarily, that's the wrong word, but how they were unnoticed prisoners and ex-army people and people with mental health, how they really suffered during the lockdown. And they asked, would I be interested in going in and performing it in the prisons? Now, although this wasn't for the Outsiders Project, when I went and did that tour and got paid for the first time in my life for performing, which was like, wow, I spoke a lot to the relevant people in the different prisons about the Outsiders Project. They came to see what we could do. So look, the simple answer is I did it for money. But what's actually happened is I've never felt so more alive than when we're doing performance and creative writing groups for lots of people in hopeless situations, particularly as 99% of them really engage with us.
I was going to ask you a question about engagement. So, we have these stereotypes, I suppose, would they be interested in what you were, somebody coming in from the outside and kind of encouraging them to perform or to write about their experiences. So how was it because you were a prisoner and now you're out that they engage with you better, or like how does it?
I apologise. Sorry, Dom. I did find out that I had a special formula. It took a couple of visits initially, but what I realised was I had English teachers and the like in the prisons saying, how the hell have you just done that? We've been working with these guys. And I suppose it was, I don't like to give myself credit, but I know there's a formula because they keep having me back, where I'm just quite natural with them. They don't scare me. They don't intimidate me. I'm at one with them. And the really important part is that the performances we do, which is our own written work, performed out first, it softens them up to let us know that they can open up a little bit. Now, if an English teacher or an officer or a probation officer or what I call a do-gooder, if I'm honest, yeah, ask them to say, "Come on, tell us what's going on," they'll just say, "Up yours." And whereas we just say, "Look, you don't even have to write about your experiences. Just have a go at writing. You don't even have to write," but they do. Yeah.
And do you think, and has it taken you a couple, you mentioned you go in a few times, but does it take a while for people to warm to you, to, almost say that, oh, you're not the do-gooder, Gary, you're one of us, kind of thing? Like, does it take time, or do you have an instant report?
So well, what I don't do is have wait at the back of a room and wait for them all to enter and then all be seated, and I will greet all of them one by one, and I'll ask them their names, how you doing, and I think my my London accent is a bit disarming for people, and I like to be funny and stuff like that. And so hopefully, but what really does it is we've had people sit down and go, "I don't know why I'm here. I'm not going to write anything. I can't write anyway." And literally, Dom, I'll tell you no lies. That's one thing I won't do. Is at the end they'll get up and give us a cuddle and all sorts and say, "Oh, mate, I'm so glad." And I'm like, "Wow, yeah."
That must
So
be
that's kind of the process.
that must be so fulfilling, or to kind of see somebody's transition.
It blows me away, honestly. I mean, I've 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 done some good stuff in my life. I beat myself up a lot, but nothing makes me feel more alive than when that is the process of that is happening. And we've just taken someone new in with us, a new performer who's doing this particular tour with us, and he just can't believe it. He's like, as much as you try and explain it on the way there and stuff like that, it's just, yeah, absolutely amazing.
So, I've seen you perform twice now, Gary, and and it's the way you perform, the storytelling is just so powerful. How important is it to hear everyone's voices?
I can only go on my own experience. So I had a notebook like most people, and even now, if people say, "Oh, you're a writer, aren't you?" I'll say, "Whoa, I don't know. I feel like a fraud." So what I did was is everybody when they had this traumatic life wants to write their life story, and great for the people that do, but I kind of knew that I'm not good at starting something and completing it anyway. That's number one. So I jotted down lots of stories and or put them on the laptop, and none of them were for public consumption. And then all of a sudden, people were saying, "Well, look, if you maybe tried tweaking your stories like this or that," and then it was like they're quite good, And I'd read them to a few people in the outsiders, and they'd go, "Wow, yeah." And then the next thing I know, I'm on a kind of stage, and people are teaching me about direction and stuff, and I'm like, "Yeah, I like this." And then it was more a matter of I really want to perform all the time, and people are saying, "Well, the only way you're going to perform here is if you write the material to perform." And I said, "Well, I've got loads of material. I've got a story for many years of every day of many years of my life, that could be a book on its own." And so I've probably gone off the tangent a little bit and forgot the question, but I've never seen myself as a writer. Other people call me that, and if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, and I'm being interviewed by a mother hen, I don't know what, so that's where I'm at.
And so was it the Outsiders project which kind of gave you that support initially, or was there some, where did you find the kind of confidence to start writing and to say them out loud? Because you said everything was private and not for public consumption. There must have been a point where it became public, and we're all very grateful for that, because we're hearing wonderful stories from you.
When I got taught to craft it, and it wasn't a blurb, and I didn't get taught in the conventional sense. When we went to creative writing groups, there was none of this, about spelling and grammar and context and did. It was a free write, and then the free writes would come back next week, and someone would say, "I like what you did with that," and I'd realised that that, we'd get a prompt in a group, and that may be it, a prompt. It could be read, and mine would be full of blood, danger, syringes, cuttings, and all that. And then others would be about flowers. And in my opinion, mine sounded better. So I thought, okay, even though the flowery pieces had lots of floral words, mine was like kind of dramatic. And I got heard, and it was never, 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 ever for a therapeutic value. That always became a byproduct. Nobody's at the Outsiders Project, and I need to mention them a lot here. Nobody's at the Outsiders Project as a byproduct for therapy. Hopefully a lot of that's been done by the time we get there. And if you have a lot of therapeutic results coming from it, fantastic. But that's not why we're there. I could write fiction all day there, and I'd be quite happy as well.
And I think that's why your stories are so powerful, because they're raw and they're real. But I totally hear what you're saying about the therapy, because I meet so many writers that, particularly when they're writing autobiographies and memoirs, they're writing, and then they're going deep, really deep inside themselves, and it starts to come out. And they never wrote to do that. It just said it was a byproduct, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been really great for me, and it's led me on to other things, Dominic. That so many aspects, that so many parts of the brain that writing triggers off. Somebody said to me years ago, knowing that I had a bit of trauma in my past, "Oh, try journaling," and I'm like, no, but try creative writing. That sounds a little bit different. It's the only thing I do for love and a little bit of money in my life. It's my grandkids. Yeah.
So thinking about the last 15, 20 years, what would you not just thinking about writing and performing, but what would you say were your challenges and successes that you had to overcome?
Myself, absolutely. Myself, and it's an ongoing thing, regardless of how long I'm in recovery for, and regardless how long I write for. There's you don't unlearn a lot of coping strategies very easy when you've had them most of your life, and you may not look into them at all until you're 10 years sober and clean and still acting like a child. I'm nearer 60 than I am 50, and I feel like I act like a 20-year-old at times. So that's ongoing, but I suppose it's that, knowing that other people will value you, which is supposed to be not important, because we're supposed to value ourselves, but being accepted by others, and being able to look into the mirror and go, you're not that bad. Yeah.
And I think community is such an important part of the writing world. And that's really, as you say, it's a byproduct of the writing festival, that a community has sprung, because there's lots of writers, and the way I describe it is there's lots of dots all over the place, but they never realized that they were dots everywhere, and that actually bringing everyone together helps you. It's like cheerleading, because it's no competition. No one's saying, oh, you're writing a crime fiction book and I'm writing a crime fiction book, therefore somebody might buy mine rather than yours. That's not it at all. There's zero competition in the writing world, in my view. So knowing that there's support out there, knowing there's community, is so powerful.
And on that note, one of the first things that I've ever been encouraged to do is to get over that critical block. We're saying, I'm rubbish, I'm rubbish, I'm rubbish. Now, once again, it's not about therapy, but I think every writer gets that, oh, this isn't good, and I'm going to start again, and and I got taught early on that actually it's all part of that process. And these are stuff people in recovery don't like to hear much. We want to be this, so we're our own worst competition in my head. And the rest of the people I've met along the way, and a lot of them, your Nell Lyshans and your Joe Billinghams and your Simon McCormacks and your Scott Levines. These people have encouraged me and let me grow at a pace which they knew was right, but I didn't.
So now you're on this path. What's the dream for you? Where do you see yourself in 10, 15 years, or where do you want to be with what you do?
So I'm slowly but surely, with the Outsiders, we've kind of got the through contacts that I've nurtured through going in for them through the Southwest, there's no imminent end to our prison stuff, which is great, and that gives opportunities for new writers to come along with me on every other tour or so, you know, and which is great. But beyond that, like going north to Winchester, and I've got something coming up there soon. What I'd like to do is like to do that full time. You know, I do a very difficult job, my other job, which is looking after county lines kids or refugee kids, which I live with, you know, for 3 days of the week, go home for 4 days of the week, go to the prison for 3 days a week, come home to the. So I never know really where I am. But the point is, I'm getting a bit old for that. Yeah, and my heart is in the other place. You know, it's in the prisons. It's the only place I feel alive, which is a terrible thing to hear myself say.
Well, you know, a lot of people say, you know, once you've kind of done something, you want to send the lift back down and help other people, and you're kind of living and breathing that in ways based on your experience and your passion. So it's just absolutely brilliant. So Gary, thank you so much for joining me today. That's great. So see Gary, Krishna performing with the Outsiders Project. They do lots of different events throughout the year. Keep an eye on their website. Other than that, thank you so much, Gary.
Thanks again for having me, Dominic. Lovely to see you again.
No problem. And thank you for your amazing performance on that Sunday night. So to everybody else, thank you so much for joining us today. And join us next week on Monday, 6 o'clock for the next exciting installment of our YouTube videos. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.